Hey, good morning, guys. I just wanted to give everybody a quick update. So, if you'll notice, the bike is now on the lift backwards. I was all set to film a test ride for you guys yesterday. Pushed it down off the lift, pushed it outside, had it sitting there running, idling away, and as I started to move it, I grabbed the front brake, which stopped the bike, but then the bike would not push forward any further, anymore. The front brakes were locked up. Rear brake is working good. So I noticed, I took the cable off in advance here, but if you squeeze the brake, so this will pull this back, because your cable will operate on this, pull this up, which pushes this all back. So if you notice when I hit it, it moves back and it stays there. Okay, and the only way to get it back off is to tap it back off. So then that allowed me to move the bike around again. So we're gonna have to pull this front wheel, which I really wanted to do anyway, because the front tire is all dry rotted and cracked. I have a new front tire ready for it, but I was hoping I could get it out for a test ride quick, just to see how everything was working. But I don't really want to ride it with the front brake that way, because if I forget and accidentally pull on the front brake, then we'll be stuck out there unless I want to carry my hammer with me. So that's where we are. Some quick things that we did. I had an air filter, so I put an air filter on it. So we'll have to still tune the carburetor a little bit. I got all the stupid lettering off of both sides of the tank, and I put the correct tank badges on. A good point of note about this is if you need tank badges, there were different kinds. Some had one screw that holds it on like this does, and there's a rubber backing piece. Some had two screws. Okay, you would think that if you had the one screw versus the two screw, it'd be the same screw, just use one or two. Not the case. The one with a single screw is a totally different screw than if it had two screws. Two screws being much smaller. So, another thing I want to talk about real fast. We talked about the fact that if you're working on British bikes, about the electrical connectors. There's another thing you need to be aware of. If you decide to get into the British bike game, you will need a whole new set of tools. They use, especially anything from 60s, from before 70, anything earlier than 1970 for sure, you will need a whole set of Whitworth wrenches and Whitworth sockets, okay? Because your regular American or metric wrenches and sockets will not fit properly, and you will round off your very expensive Whitworth bolts. So make sure you invest in that. In the 70s, they started to make the switch away from the British stuff, but you will still find British threaded things in the engines and the like. So when I got these tank badges, the threads in the tank were kind of boogered up, which brings up another thing. You will have to get a set of Whitworth tap and dies, which I have. That was a 3BA thread, it's called. So I was able to tap those holes back out so that they work. The other thing you will want to invest in is their Phillips screws that they use are not actually Phillips screws. They're called posi drives. You'll see this says PZ2 for posi drive size 2, and I have all three sizes. This one's the posi drive 3 for the bigger tip, and then there's a 1. Because inside the Phillips, you probably won't be able to see this on camera, but there is yet another little piece in between the main pieces. Okay, they're actually, if you have an unadulterated posi drive screw and you use a posi drive screwdriver, they resist camming out like a traditional Phillips does, and they actually work very well. It's important to have the correct tools when working on British bikes, because British hardware, while you can still get it if you need new Whitworth bolts and nuts and screws and things like that, you can buy them, but they are expensive, okay? So you don't want to ruin perfectly good screws and nuts and bolts by using the wrong stuff. So enough of that. I'm going to get this rear wheel off. It's a simple matter. Once you disconnect the brake cable, okay, you take the 2 bolts out from the bottom of the forks on both sides, and the wheel just comes out. We'll have to jack this up. I have my jack ready. We'll jack the front end up, get the front wheel off, then we can pull this brake plate out, and we can see what's going on the side of there. It might just need greased and cleaned up. British also use these oddball grease fittings. You can buy grease guns that will fit these. There are companies I found that actually sell, I call it American style grease fitting with British style threads. So you could replace these, but they don't look right. So I like to retain these. And what I'll do is I'll take everything apart and I'll just grease it from the inside. And we'll go from there. But, all right, I'll see you guys shortly. All right, so here we are. We got the front wheel off, no drama. Now, in order to get to this brake, we need to take this big nut off. And it is a 1 1/8 inch nut. I got my impact gun here, and hopefully this will come right off. Got to seat it on there. There we go, it's on. There we go, nut off. And now we should be able to pull this faceplate. Now we should be able to pull this plate off here. Set you guys down. All right, so now this is what they call your twin leading shoe brakes assembly, which on this bike came out in 1969. In Triumph, on the bigger bikes under 650s, they actually had this in 68. There's a nicer arrangement. 2 obviously brake pads, and you can adjust them so you can get both to operate and touch inside the drum simultaneously. So these actually were really good brakes. They actually worked really well. I don't see anything broken, but we will take these all apart. We will clean and grease everything and see what that gets us. All right, so that's it for now. I will bring you back again when I get it all disassembled, get it all cleaned up, and we'll show you all the parts. Hey, good morning and welcome back. I just wanted to give everybody a quick update because now I'm waiting on a couple of things. So I pulled the front wheel apart like we talked about last time. Okay, I pulled the front drum all apart, pulled the brakes all apart, and what it was you had these 2 cams that rotate. They were pretty much seized into their holes on the backing plate here. I ended up having to actually use my press to press them out. Just, probably years of not being used, extremely hard dried up grease and steel against aluminum galvanic reaction type stuff. Anyway, got them pressed out, cleaned them all up, cleaned the holes all out, greased everything, put it all back together, and now everything works like it should. Okay, you got movement, got the brakes returning on their own. All right, everything works. Replaced this pin and clip because it was all rusted and broken off, and now the brakes are all good. Another really good tool everybody should have for their shop. When I cleaned out those holes, So I think I just got this off of Amazon. Okay, it's a really good kit. It has all different sizes of brushes in both brass, stainless, nylon. Then they all just clip right into a nice handle. There's an extension, and I took one of these brass brushes and I cleaned those holes out real good, and that helped fix up the corrosion that had occurred. So another really good tool, really cheap tool too. It was well worth it. I've used it a lot. In doing that, I decided I wanted to change the oil. I did have it running. I was a little worried about how old the oil was. So I drained it out, looked inside the tank, and there was a lot of sludge in the bottom of the tank from that oil probably sitting in there for years. So I spent 2 days cleaning that all out with kerosene. It's all good and cleaned out now. I just want to do one final cleaning with really hot soapy water to get rid of some of the kerosene residue, dry it out real good, and then we will remount that and be able to put some oil in it. Since I had that all out, I pulled the sump plate and sump filter from up underneath. See if I get you guys a shot up there. So that's where a sump plate goes. You might be able to see that little nipple that hangs down. That's for your return pump to pull the oil up out of the sump. So I got that all out, got it all nice and cleaned up. It actually wasn't that bad. Waiting on some new gaskets to come. They should be here this week. Then I can finish putting that all together, and that'll clean up the whole engine oil side. I did change out the primary oil, and I noticed that I do have a primary leak, so I ordered some, and it's leaking right on the bottom along where the gasket is. So I'm going to pull the primary off. I ordered some gaskets. This is all the normal kind of stuff that you have to deal with when working on these old bikes. Just part of the charm, part of the fun. So I'm going to pull that and put a new gasket on, refill that, see how that works out. I did check the primary chain. The primary chain is tensioned nice, and everything looks good. A very observant viewer of the video sent me a note and said that in '69, some of these engines from BSA were in fact painted black. So this engine may have come from BSA this way, being black. I looked at some pictures. I looked at a lot of pictures online. I've seen 69s both ways in the US with silver engines and with black engines. So it looks like either way could be correct. But anyway, that's where we stand at the moment. Waiting on a couple of parts, mostly gaskets, and we'll get this thing put back together and hopefully be able to take you guys out for a test ride. I think it's going to be a fun little back road bike. I live in a very windy road area. Small bikes are great for those really tight, windy roads that I live on and around. So it should be a really fun little back road burner. But there's where we stand currently, and I will bring you guys back when I get some of these parts in, and we'll get this thing done and finished up. I still want to do the transmission fluid yet too, but I want to get it good and hot for that first. All right, so hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. If I don't talk to you again, have a Happy New Year, and why don't you get out there in the garage and build something. All right, see you soon.